has a very good overview of what's happening, especially in evaluation in the global funds and programs. Because the World Bank is institutionally linked to almost all of them. I don't know about any that are not linked to the World Bank. So it's a kind of the spider in the web. And this provides a kind of a unique opportunity to see whether the strands are coming together and whether we actually could do something with this. IG has already done something. It has published a source book on evaluation of global partnership programs. And this source book is very valuable, yet it is not at this level of comprehensive evaluations. And so the question I would pose to Caroline is, what is her perspective on this issue, especially in the global programs and funds, but don't hesitate to go beyond that. And what is your perspective also on the source book? Is it something that could be a basis for further work? Could these lessons be integrated in such a format? Is this the way to go forward? Caroline.
Thank you very much, and thanks for introducing me as a spider in the web. That's the first one. Maybe let me speak a little bit more about these global and regional partnership programs, GRPP, and Bob used that acronym. It sort of sometimes sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but it is basically looking at these programs, these partnership programs that have been formed largely to respond to specific issues. They are very often trust fund based, and they address, for example, HIV/AIDS or climate change or things like this. The other thing that's interesting about them is that they are not like a typical multilateral organization, but they bring together a cross-section of partners. So it is donors, new donors, recipient countries, and there is the private sector, both the commercial side as well as private foundations and CSOs, which can and do participate in some of these programs. From the independent evaluation perspective, the ones that the World Bank Group is involved in, and I cannot say whether it's 100%, but it is a very large part, some 120 global and regional partnership programs that spend roughly $7 billion a year. So the World Bank Group has various roles to play in these, whether it's as the trustee, as a donor, part of the governance structure, sometimes the host, sometimes an implementer. And way back when, the World Bank Group adopted a policy that these programs have to have a mandatory evaluation when they meet certain criteria. And virtually all of those programs do meet these criteria, and therefore there have been quite a number of external evaluations. So we're emphasizing external evaluations because sometimes these evaluations do not meet full independence criteria in that management is commissioning them, and therefore there is no structural independence to these. Out of the 106 programs that have been in place for 5 years or more, 93 have had an external evaluation. Only one, as Rob was saying, has a fully functioning independent evaluation system in place, and that is the GEF. The CGIAR is setting up an independent evaluation function in order to fulfill more regular evaluation requirements. On IEG's part, the Independent Evaluation Group of the World Bank Group, we play various roles. One is that we increasingly get requests to advise on setting up the terms of reference for these evaluations, and have prepared something like a template and some sample evaluation questions to provide some guidance to when these evaluations are being undertaken. Rob rightly mentioned that we have developed a source book. It was a joint initiative of IEG and the DAC Evaluation Network. I actually participated in the preparatory workshop. At the time I was working with IFAD, and it was bringing stakeholders together from all of the different interest groups, whether it was foundations, NGOs, the banks, the other multilaterals like the UN, bilaterals, and it was an extremely interesting exchange about what the perspectives were and what people felt was important about evaluating these types of programs. Once there has been an external evaluation, IEG undertakes reviews of a select few, where we basically focus on validating the quality of the evaluation, validating the findings of the effectiveness of the program, and then focus on the performance of the World Bank Group, because that is the area where the World Bank Group obviously has a big responsibility, and we need to determine whether it is exercising its role in that respect. For the larger GRPPs, namely the Global Fund, the GEF, Gavi, we have increasingly moved towards focusing solely on the role of the World Bank Group as a partner in these. Now, what is the future for independent evaluations or evaluations of these programs? We found more recently, and we are reflecting on this, we have not come to any conclusion and decision, but that these large external evaluations, one-time events, absorb quite a lot of resources, and it's not just the budget we're talking about, but the cost to the institution in terms of just the effort to engage with it and so on and so forth. The other part is that the ongoing learning and the immediacy of looking at what is working and what is not working and taking corrective action much sooner than after a 5-year time period is very important, and we're starting to lean more and more towards encouraging or thinking through whether there should be more institutionalized evaluation mechanisms of these programs. Obviously, if these are very small programs, it might not be worthwhile setting up a whole institutional structure, but that there is a more regular generation of evaluation evidence. And as Derek was saying in his introductory remarks, many of these comprehensive evaluations very often suffer from the absence of evaluation evidence that they can draw on. So we feel that the emphasis might have to focus more onto this area. Our source book, as I mentioned, has been used and has been drawn on by people. We are providing help with developing terms of reference, and we will be looking at updating it and reflecting on our practice of having now reviewed some over 20 of these external evaluations and see how we can take forward this material. So if there is a need and demand for comprehensive evaluations to draw on this is definitely something one can reflect on and take into account.
Thank you very much. And then let me turn to the last panel member, Indran Naidoo. He was Deputy Director General in the Public Service Commission in South Africa, and